Hello, friends. Today on Study Scripture Online, I want to take just a couple of minutes to chat with you about losers. Years ago, when preaching on the story of Rahab the harlot in Joshua 2, I used as my sermon title, God Specializes in Zeros. When one of my esteemed colleagues saw my sermon title, he asked, "Since when are you into autobiographical sermons?" Well, in a sense, that message was autobiographical. But then it's also biographical of every human being who has been sought out, saved, and used by the grace of God. You see, when we think of zeros, of real losers, we think of people like Rahab the prostitute. But when we are measured against the righteous standards of God, every one of us comes out a moral and spiritual loser. That's what Paul meant when he said there are none righteous, not even one, Romans 3:10. And for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God, Romans 3:23. So there's a sense in which my sermon could have been entitled, God Specializes in People. But I really did mean something additional when I entitled it, God Specializes in Zeros. There are in fact certain people who have violated God's moral laws more often than most, and who have reached a stage of moral degradation and wickedness that sets them apart from other men and women. And I believe a case can be made that God specializes in these kinds of people, not because he desires to honor their behavior, but rather because he desires to turn them into trophies of his grace. Think with me for a moment about some of the great men and women of faith in Scripture, and consider what they were before God took hold of them. Jacob, a scheming, conniving liar. Moses, a speech-handicapped murderer. David, a timid shepherd turned adulterer and murderer. Jonah, a selfish coward. Matthew, a despised tax collector. Paul, a short, nearsighted, ugly persecutor of Christians. Peter, an ignorant, loud-mouthed, proud fisherman. Think, too, about some of God's trophies of grace down through the history of the church. St. Augustine, John Newton, Charles Colson, and the list could go on. Why is it that God seems to specialize in losers? I think it's because he's in the salvage business, and he is able and willing to turn your life into a memorial for good, no matter what your past or present may be. If you feel keenly your own foolishness and wickedness and sinfulness, if you feel despised, if you feel disadvantaged because of racism, sexism, or physical disability, remember Rahab. God knew her and still chose her. She responded in faith and God exalted her. She became like a diamond set against the darkness of her time. For further exploration of this topic, click the link below, which will take you to a sermon entitled, God Specializes in Zeros, based on Joshua chapter 2.